Awesome. Hey guys, welcome to Blazing Guitars. Today I want to talk about what's been on my mind a lot this week, and I'm sure it's been on a lot of your minds if you lead worship at a church, and that is how to prepare for your Christmas set list. I think this is something that I struggled with for years of just, Christmas kind of crept up and we were constantly practicing for the current week. And so we just didn't have time to throw at learning Christmas songs. And then often Christmas songs are fairly challenging to play when you get down into it and you look up, Joy to the World and there's 800 different chords there. And you're like, man, it can just be super overwhelming. And then finally you bring it to the band and they're also overwhelmed. And your Christmas set list just kind of becomes this thing that's challenging and that's not as enjoyable as it probably should be, which, we're celebrating Christmas. We're celebrating the most joyous time of the year. So just wanted to give a couple thoughts on how to maybe overcome that and what you can do. It might be a little bit late for you this year, but maybe what you can do next year or just as you're preparing for special events in general. So with that, I think the first thing that's important to engage in is your set list. And what I would suggest is coming up with a set of maybe 5 to 10 songs that you do consistently year after year until you get more comfortable. And I think in general, that's a really good idea, especially if your band is struggling, to really limit what you do just in terms of church and songs and music. Just limit it to a couple songs. And especially if you're only playing those songs once a year, limit it to 5 to 10 songs and learn those songs really well before you start expanding your set. Now, as I said before, learning Christmas songs is really challenging because a lot of them have a bunch of wacky chords and just a lot of stuff going on in the songs. So what I would suggest is to go look for worship bands that have remade and redone those songs. Because a lot of those guys are thinking about playing those songs at church and they're thinking about playing them with bands. So look for, Crowder or anything from Passion. Ren Collective put out an album. There's a band called Folk Angel. And all those guys are constantly putting out Christmas stuff. And often they're much easier to play than your traditional set. So go find a version of the song that you like. So find a song that you want to do. Go find a version of it that you like, and then use that as your master version. Give that to your team and start working on it. So that would be kind of the first step is just, find simple songs, get a set down, and then work from there. The second step, I would say, is to just make sure that you give plenty of time for your band to learn the songs. So, maybe pick your song set at the beginning of November. And put that out and give them the chords and give your team the chords and give yourself some time to learn the songs and become really familiar with it. That being said, you as the worship leader should be the most familiar with the songs. So really take some time and carve it out. And I know it's a busy time of season, just with work and fourth quarter and all that stuff. So just take some time to really sit down with the songs and learn them well and be confident in them. Because what I found is the more confident I can play a set, the better it goes. And so just in general, as you're introducing new songs, sit down with the song, sit down with your Christmas set and really learn it and become confident in it. And then that just allows you to be a lot more prepared if something funky happens. For example, like this week, we don't have a drummer or our regular acoustic guitar player. So we're doing an acoustic set for our Christmas set. So, but because I'm familiar with the songs, I'm able to take that all in stride. So just as a worship team leader and as you're preparing for this, really be familiar with it yourself. And then on top of that, give your team plenty of time to learn the songs and be familiar and prepared. And what I've even done is I've done the same set for a couple years in a row and then just started adding new songs. So, there's only 50 Christmas songs. And so I think, especially with Christmas music, people don't expect a ton of variety. And if you take out like Jingle Bells and all the famous Christian songs or Christmas songs that aren't really about faith, then you're left with only a handful. So, keeping it to just the same set a couple years until you get really familiar with it is totally fine and doable. And then if you can, carve out time at at the end of some of your practices. So like after you've practiced through your set for the week, practice one of the Christmas songs at the end of that practice time, just so that you've had some time to sit with it together as a team. And then the final thing I would just keep in mind is to have a really clear understanding of what your church expects from your worship set and what your pastors expect from your worship set. Because I know a lot of churches, what people really like about Christmas songs is the nostalgia. And what's really easy to do with Christmas songs is to change them so much that it's not nostalgic anymore. So just be aware of that and balance that out as you're thinking about songs and picking your set. Just pick something, and maybe your church is totally different, but I've just found for us, I can get away with maybe one really funky Christmas song, but all of the other ones have to be pretty traditional. So just be aware of that as you're working through this whole process. So that's kind of what I had. As I said, Ren Collective put out a Christmas album. I'm this year doing mostly songs off of "Oh for Joy" from Crowder. I found that they're really, really easy. They're not a ton of really complicated chords, and they're pretty reproducible. So, find something like that a source that is really helpful for you, and I think that'll go a long way in preparing. So I hope your worship sets go well. I hope you guys have a good Christmas and good holidays. I'm probably out for the rest of the year. So with that, all of that being said, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you have any questions or maybe even good resources that you'd like to share, feel free to do that in the comments below. I also have a Discord server for people who want to jump in and just get some fellowship together and some resources from other, I guess specifically for people that are in small churches that don't have a ton of community. So if that's you, jump in. There's going to be a link in the description below. And thank you guys so much for watching and taking some time out of your busy season. And we will see you probably in the next year. So see you soon.